So 1, 2, 3, 4. Again, coming from the PPSA House of Pain in the rack, laptop setting on the green egg. All right, we're trying again to bring some strong content, and you do that with the people that you bring on and let them talk to you. So again, excited to do this, excited to share. Today we have a special friend of mine, co-worker, coaches with me at SC, second time around. So I'd like to welcome Coach DARREN MUSTIN, also known as ELBD. And if so, I'm going to go ahead and spoil this. It stands for Everybody Loves Big DARREN.
Thanks, Double A. Welcome, everybody. Fourth episode. We're going to talk about leaders versus followers. Now, before we jump right into it, I want to show you where I got my information. Kellerman, that's a good book, Nordhaus, Uckel. But you know, we all Google. Google, I'm guilty. So I was like, Google, what do you think of the word leader? Boom, 158 million search results. Pretty solid. I see you doing your thing, leader. So I want to know, all right, what about follower? 68.7 million results. So you mean to tell me I'm not the greatest in math, but if I go 70 plus 70, that's 140. So according to Google, the follower is nowhere near as important than the leader. According to Google, off its results, the leader is twice as important than the follower. Why is that? Why do we have such a big emphasis on the word leader? Almost a negative connotation on the word follower. But what about social media? Instagram is huge nowadays, and if you have a lot of followers, you have power. According to Keller, the word follower is almost a negative connotation. It's almost an insult, especially in the US. It's been shunned by those in leadership roles, in the leadership field. Do not bring that followness to this leadership field. And why am I even talking about it today? Those who know me know I'm an assistant. The place I was before this, I was an assistant. The place I was before that, I was an assistant. When was the last time I was in a lead position? When was I ever a leader, and what qualifies me to talk about leadership today? Well, let's start at the very beginning when I was a toddler. Toddler versus teen. Everybody was once upon a time a toddler, and everybody looked at their family members or somebody close to them. They were powerful, they were big, they dominated. I was blessed enough to grow up in Oklahoma City, Oklahoma, being a toddler, and I grew up around rodeos. I saw my cousins ride big bulls. I saw my dad jump off a horse and wrestle down a steer. That was power. I also had cousins that were bigger than me and would force me to fight if they didn't, because they would dominate me if I didn't fight. As I moved along in my life, that power, that dominance, it kind of changed to being more influenced. I have teachers, preachers, people who are not dominating me to get things done, but more influencing me. Coaches, as I go along in life, from my pee-wee times to my high school times, there's certain coaches that actually stuck, and there are certain coaches who were like, I don't even remember their names. There's certain coaches that were, when I was a pee-wee, I still call to this day and ask for advice. Then we go to college after I graduate high school. I got an opportunity to get around a lot of people in leadership roles. Got to 2 different universities, 3 different head coaches, 4 different head strength and conditioning coaches in my college career as a player. And during this time, only one of those head coaches really stuck and made an impact. And I remember some of the teachings. Only have one of the strength and conditioning coaches' number in my phone. I don't remember one of their names, and the other 2 very vaguely, nothing powerful. In my young professional career, I was trying to figure out what was I going to do with my life. I had become a captain during my years in school, so I felt like I could lead. I felt like natural born leader, that's what I was, but I had no idea what to do. So then I went to this place called D1 Sports Training and Therapy. This guy named Will Bartholomew knew me. I asked him, Will, can I train for free? He says no, but you can coach and you can train anytime you want to. He led me through a door that I did not know I loved so much. I fell in love with training. I fell in love with coaching. I fell in love with the process. And then it introduced me to this guy named Kurt Hester. Now, anybody that knows Kurt Hester knows he's a passionate, highly knowledgeable man. And that was really one of my first mentors in the strength and conditioning game. Me working with him and just learning from him and him bringing me along, he introduced me to this guy named Buddy Tevens down in Thibodaux, Louisiana. This guy named Buddy Tevens shook my hand, said, I saw how you work, believed in me. Kurt Hester led me through the doors to meet Buddy Tevens. Buddy Tevens called me up, got an interview. After the interview, got the job, and I'll never forget it. First day I show up to the job, I'm excited. First college coaching job. My two superiors looked at me. Both people who are in a leading role of supposed to be leading me looked at me and said, why are you here? We told them not to hire you. You can see how I was not influenced by them. Well, maybe I was. But as I was working and I was putting my nose to the grind, learning, trying to become a better coach, I saw this one volunteer. And this volunteer was making a lot of impact and influencing a lot of athletes. And he was not even in a head position. He was not getting paid. This volunteer was named Scott Caulfield. In his servant-like mindset, he helped lead me to a different path without my actual superiors leading me. Then I got to keep working. D1 called me back. I got an opportunity to own my own facility, and I was such a do it this way or the highway. I was stuck in my ways, being a very inefficient leader. And then I got an opportunity. I got a call from this guy named Scott Perkins, who was my 9th grade economics teacher, who was in no way of a lead position. He wasn't the head coach, D coordinator, offensive coordinator, none of that. He gave somebody a call named Aaron Osmus. And Aaron Osmus brought me in, taught me some things, introduced me to Tim Ojeda, Tim Karen, and Double A, got a question for you. Do you remember the time where I was late a couple times and you asked me, you sat me down and you talked to me? Do you remember that conversation? You're on mute.
Yeah, awkward conversation.
But it was the one that changed my life. Do you remember the words you said to me, or is that just?
Kind of, but yeah, tell me.
We'll make a long story short. You said I could be great in this field if I took it seriously. Yeah. And ever since that day, you led me down a different path, because then I got serious, and this guy named Tim Karen, who became another great mentor who challenged me. And I'll tell another way that Tim Karen really elevated me later on, but then he introduced me to people like Will Greenberg, Brian Phillips. These people really shaped my life, the way they pursued knowledge. Then I worked for people like Mark Phillip that I worked for the SC, Cleet McLeod. And through them, I actually got to see this book called, right here, Inside Out Coaching by Joe Ehrman. And in that book, they talk about transactional versus transformational coaching. And are you transforming lives? And I looked back on my past and just saw that's why they stuck. They were transforming me. That's why they did certain things. That's how they helped me. So out of all that, my story should validate so we can talk about leadership a little bit, because I've been around it. And I want to know, how did we come to define the word leader? Everybody has a different meaning for the word leader. Just like everybody has a different word for the word democracy, love, peace. But Double A, I got a question for you. How would you define decent?
So for me, Decent, in my mind, is really exceptionally great. It's awesome. But if you look up the word decent, it's kind of like, it's okay. It's pretty good. You know, it'll do. But I've kind of coined it and kind of in my life, especially the last few years, as like when I comment decent, in my mind, I'm paying the highest compliment. I think it's as good as it can get, which again is different from the definition.
Exactly. Exactly. Just like the word leader depends on your life, just like the word love. I don't know how the word love is used in your household, but it could be used differently in a different one. And the word love could be it could be patient. Love is patient. Love is kind. Love is sacrifice. Love is joy, just like the word leader. So I wanted to say, all right, there's so many definitions for the word leader. How did we actually come to research it? Tell me the facts. Show me the facts. What's that? The Carfax? Show me the Carfax on leader. Well, it goes all the way back to the 1900s. From 1900s to 1920s, the emphasis was on power. Very similar to like my life when I was a toddler. Power was leadership. They could dominate me, so they are going to lead me, or I get dominated, or I get, you know, that's just how it was. Then as we grow, 1930s, 1940s, influence, that's what came out, dominating. All right, okay, just like my life, teacher, you're not going to put your hands on me. You got to influence me, okay? Then as we keep going to the 1950s, three themes: continuation on influence, leadership as more of a relationship, and the ability to influence a group. This is really, really tying into my sports childhood life, my coaches, how they influence the group. We both have a shared goal. We want to win. When I was little, if we won, we went to Pizza Hut, and we wanted to get to Pizza Hut as a team. And we wanted to see how effective that coach was at leading us. That's where it all came together. It's kind of like the continuation of my life and the continuation of leadership or leaders. Next, in the 60s, emphasis on behavior. You know, moving on through life, come high school, I was a high school captain. How did the high school captain act? How did the high school captain respond to certain situations? The behavior. And after the 1960s, we hit to the 1970s, we learned that leadership is not a one-way street. We learned that leadership is, okay, mutual. You got to handle something, I've got to handle something. It's not just transactional. It is, but it's got to be transformational a little bit as well. 1980s, we had an explosion. Influence was the most often used word in defining the word leadership. Influence. Then during this time, they said, all right, based off traits. That means you're a natural born leader. At one point in my life, I thought it had to be done a certain way, natural born leaders. That's where they are. And then finally, in the 1980s, they started talking about it as a transformational process, how leaders and followers raise one another to higher motivations. It's kind of crazy how the progressed throughout the years of research is the same way it kind of progressed through my life. Then we're to today's day and age. 1990s and 2000s debate of management versus leadership. During my young professional career, were my people who were leading me, who were in charge, actually influencing me? Or were they just managing me, not leading? How did they approach? And at the end of this research, they showed me how you can approach leadership. And there's 6 different ways. The emphasis of the process is that the process and the approach is authentic, spiritual, servant, adaptive, followership, and discursive leadership. Now, these 6 different are here. First is authentic. Each one of these can change. You don't have to use every approach, but I know some approaches must be used at all times, and this is one. If you want to be an effective leader and influence people, you have to be real. You have to be genuine. All right? Next, spiritual. This reminds me of a coworker. This coworker has told me that he acts and lives in a way that his purpose is to bring the Trojans back to glory. That's how he presents his leadership. He motivates others, brings them to a higher sense of calling. We have servant leadership. Just like Scott Caulfield, when I first got to know him, and I didn't know what he was going, I didn't know he was going to become the director of the NSCA and then the director of just director after director. I didn't know that. He was a volunteer, but his servant leadership helped lead me to become like that as well. Adaptive leadership. People like Will Greenberg and Brian Phillips and Tim Karen, they approach problems with their leadership, challenges, changes, knowledge, chasing it. Followership. This is one really hit home, especially in today's day and age with our youth. Our youth are on Instagram all the time. They find power in their followers. How many followers do I have? That lets you know how much esteem or power you have. It's not necessarily in the leader, it's in the followers, which got me thinking, is a leader definitely that much more powerful than a follower? Then there's discursive. This approach to leadership is more about negotiations. They lead by negotiating. I have a good friend named Antoine Caldwell. Wherever we went, if he starts doing this with his hands, talking to somebody, he's negotiating. He takes the lead, and we know it's going to happen because that's his gift. We all have ways that we can approach leadership. You can be spiritual, adaptive, focus on the follower. You can be a servant, but I truly believe you must be authentic. You have to be real, because if not, kids, coworkers, they'll smell you out and call you for who you are. It all boils down to this: influence. What does it look like, though? I hear the word influence being used the most out of all the research. Influence, influence, influence. Well, the leadership will be determined on what course of action to take. And there's 4 different styles you can approach a situation to influence. There's a lot of influencing you can do, but hey, there's 4 different ways. That's what they broke it down, according to Yuko. All right? First is the autocratic, my way or the highway. Kid shows up late. Why are you late? You know this is not what you do. That's the punishment. That's not what you are. You jump down the throat. Autocratic, it's, hey, I'm making a decision on me. You got a team of people? No, I'm not going to listen to my team of people. It's on me. I know what to do. I've been doing this long enough. I got this. Leader takes the lead and leads. That's autocratic. Next, consultation, where the leader asks the followers some of their opinion. In my opinion, where there's a lot of minds, there's a lot of knowledge. Okay? This is where the leader asks the followers some information, but then at the end of the day, the leader makes the decision. Next, we have joint decision. It's where the leader-member relationship as a partnership, together as one. And then delegation, where the leader can give an individual or group responsibility for making decisions. Now, these 4 styles are all cool. They'll be like, all right, that's awesome. I see that you got the research. All right, cool. But I like to see, all right, where's the value? Where's the value? And that value is based on the scale. It's called the leader-member exchange. It will place these 4 styles in a high-quality group or low-quality group. A high-quality group produces in-group members. The low-quality group produces out-group members. Now, the most important thing we need to realize right now is we need to create buy-in. I have never heard somebody say, let's create buy-out. And if you get this buy-in, you have in-group members. And this is the stats on in-group members. This is over 25 years of research of people in the in-group. They do extra things for the leader, and the leader does extra things for them. They get more done, more promoted, positive performance evaluations, faster career progress over 25 years. This is research by Nordhaus. So you mean to tell me my whole group, everybody gets more successful the more in-group people we create, right? So let's see where they ranked. First, autocratic. The style of autocratic, my way or the highway, scored the lowest. Let's go back to that story. Why are you late? Da-da-da-da-da, da-da-da-da-da, da-da-da-da-da. Kid comes back, look at you and says, my mom just died. Ooh, how do you feel? Your way or the highway, you're not getting any information. You're creating out-group people who are less compatible with the leader, who just show up, do things, and leave, and don't care about doing a little extra to get everybody else better because you put them in that group by how your style, you approach them. Next is consultation. That downward consultation, it increases the knowledge of the expertise of the leader. They get it from his subordinates. Everybody's brain together works better than one alone, which this in turn gives us a sense of ownership. This is higher on the leader-member exchange, a little higher quality. Now the next two tied for the highest, joint decision and delegation. Okay, if we think about joint and delegating and why they are on the highest, we see that they create the most purpose-driven, passionate individuals. And to me, success comes from passion, directed in the correct way. All right? So what are our styles and how are we approaching? Are we approaching in the servanthood? Are we listening to those around us? Are we elevating? Are we delegating? There are three main basic skills, according to research, that people have at an administrative level. Like you can do the technical skill, you can do the actual thing. You have human skills, you're good with people. You have conceptual skills, the ones that you're good at solving problems. The people who rank the highest on the technical skills led the fewest amount of people in management roles. The people who ranked highest in the human and conceptual skills managed or led a greater number of people. So why we say that? Double A, can you remember a time where you created in-group people through your actions or your styles, through your approaches?
Say it one more time.
How did you create buy-in, like over your experience, creating buy-in, creating in-group members? Can you give an example of some of the things that you've done to create that buy-in?
Yeah, I mean, for me, the buy-in is it comes from, I think, more than anything, is just that consistent message, and getting the people, say your followers, to buy into the product. And so obviously now you're selling something. You know, in our business, we're selling strength training. We're selling strength, and we're trying to get guys to buy in. So, you know, there's several ways you can do it. You know, with, you know, the guys, you know, the groups, the training within, you know, giving out a T-shirt or something with guys for exceptional technique or exceptional training day. It starts creating guys, you know, they're buying into your program because they're doing the things you're asking them to do, and then you start rewarding them. And then when people start looking around and seeing, wow, you can get a T-shirt if you have a really good squat in the program, I think I'm gonna improve my squat because I like that T-shirt because it says strength training. Life's too short to be small and weak. I think that shirt's pretty cool. I like what it represents. That's what our program represents. So just creating little things like that, you know, the groups become bigger, and then your whole goal is it to spread it throughout a whole team.
What about with a staff? You know, you've dealt with a lot of staffs. You've been with Sorenex your third time, with SC, been a head strength and conditioning coach around the country. What about some staff buy-in, creating in groups in your staff?
I think you're really the same thing. I think you got to be very, for me, just be very open in the beginning of what is going to be our product, and we all have to agree on it. And then how are we going to go out as a staff and sell this product out in the weight room amongst our team? So for me, having that consistent message and getting a staff on the same page, to me, is the main thing. Because if we go on the floor, we all have 5 of us, 4 of us, or however how many it is, has the same message. The players are going to see, wow, they're bought into what they're selling. They believe in these products. These products are cleans and squats and pulls. And then, damn, their message is consistent because every week they're still talking about these same products and how those products are going to benefit me. And you know what? This coach talks about that product exactly the way this coach talks about that product. And his cues and things, the way he coaches me are very similar. And I think the staff's on the same page. So I start everything with that. At a new program with a new staff is like, we have to hit the floor, and that must be first and foremost. The best thing we do is go out there and be a unit that's unified, all right, because it's going to stand on something.
Awesome, thank you. Like being in this is my second time with you and your staff. You really lift people up and give people purpose, because it's never just your ideas and we're doing this. Like, you have the say, but you put a lot of responsibility everywhere else. So I want to say thank you for that. Next, we got the key ingredient to leaders. Double A kind of hit on it a little bit. I like to tell stories. The reason why I like to tell stories is because this book right here, Made to Stick by Chip and Dan Heath, they say tell stories to make people remember. And the key ingredient, that's what we want to know. What's the key ingredient to effective leadership? Well, I'm going to tell you a story. Anybody that knows me knows I like music. So one day I went to a music festival. At this music festival, I pulled up, got to the top of the hill, could see down. It was a ton of people dancing everywhere. But right in front of me, like, I'm 500 yards from the stage. I'm pretty far. But right in front of me, there was a horde of people dancing. I said to myself, man, I wish I would have known who started this, because it's such a huge amount of people dancing right here so far from the stage. There's gaps here and there in between the stage and this group, but this group was huge. So I sat down, and as I sat down on the hill, a little genie popped up beside me. I was like, whoa, what's Genie doing? Genie popped up and said, I heard your wish. I can grant it for you. Do you really want to know it? I was like, what wish? You said you wish you knew how that thing started. I was like, oh, okay. He was like, you got to guess twice, though. Take a couple guesses. Who started? So me thinking, all right, natural born leaders. Who's the natural born leader in the crowd? I see the biggest guy, him. Nope. All right, so I was like, all right, let's switch it up. It's probably, let's just say that lady right there. Nope. He's like, you really wish to know? I was like, yeah, man, who is it? He said, come here. So I got lower, and he slapped me in the face. I was like, what? I was about to spring on it. He said, look. I looked down, the hill was empty. It was just one guy dancing by himself. One guy dancing. He's like, I took you back in time. I'm gonna show you how that horde, how that fire, how that big thing happened. So the guy was dancing, people walking past him, nobody thinking twice, having a good time. Some people making fun of him. He doesn't care. He's gonna do his thing. Then the first follower popped up. Boom, goes to the dancing man, starts dancing with him. Now the genie said, look how he embraced him. Look how he's teaching him how to dance. Look how he's making it about him and not himself. And then they kept dancing. I was like, all right, that's cool. But then the first follower turned around, looked at his friend and said, come here, it's good. So here comes the first friend of the first follower. And he's like, all right, dancing, kind of nonchalant, but like not all the way in it. And then here comes another friend. Now, you know it's real because his big boy friend's involved. Big boyfriend dancing, belly out, he don't care, he having a good time. Then another person comes, and another person comes. Then another one, and another one, and another one. And I look up and I see that big mass of people dancing that I saw when I pulled up. Genie said this, if the leader is the flint, then the first follower is the spark that really creates the fire. Let me explain that. If you got a rock thing, a flint, and you striking that thing, strike, and you trying to get a spark, that spark to make a fire, I'm striking. Your first follower is that spark. And once that first spark hits, you got to caress it. You got to make sure it's right. You got to make sure it's good enough to like serve your mind, get on its own. So then it creates the fire. Because without that spark, no fire happens. I did not go to a music festival and see a genie. That story is right there on that link, kind of modified it just to make it entertaining. But if you want to see the story of the dancing man in leadership, it's on that link. Leading and following is a team sport. There's really no right answer to how to determine how to lead somebody. How do I approach it? What style? Well, it's not a simple problem. If you guys have checked out the Coaches versus COVID and Will Greenberg, his speech, he talked about problems and being simple, complex, or chaotic. And there's different ways of problems, and approaching leadership as a simple problem is incorrect. It's more complex because there's a lot of independent parts. You don't know what's going on in that person's life. You don't know how that person was raised. You don't know how they interact with people. It's a lot of different moving parts. So how do we apply this as coaches? In each situation, what's our influential style? You know, I can really think about the times in my life where I was elevated to create value. See, if we can go back to the very beginning, the first speakers, the very first speaker for the PPSA Power Hour, Hour of Strength, Hour of Great Information, was the first servanthood leader I've ever seen in Scott Caulfield. He started us off with philosophy. Then we get the 10 Commandments from Josh. If you haven't heard it, I highly recommend you go back and listen. He's a director at SC with the sports department. And then we have a great mentor of mine in Tim Karen. And the way that Tim Karen has led me in my life, there was a time where we were at Army West Point and we were together, and I found some research, some numbers that impressed him. Now, if you know Tim Karen, it's hard to find numbers to really impress him, but I did. And instead of him taking those numbers for himself, and instead of him taking it up and be like, here's what I found, he said, you're gonna put that together and you're gonna show that to the head man. Very uncomfortable for me. He delegated that responsibility to me to deliver the message to the head man. As I delivered the message, the head man came back to me and said, do this, do this, do that. Elevated me more just by he delegating a responsibility. Now to this day, I look at Army West Point and I have pride in something they put up before each fourth quarter because I had a part in that. And I have never felt that purpose or that passion or that pride if the responsibility was never delegated to me. People in positions of leadership, are we delegating or are we trying to handle everything our own? How are we creating value? Are you following other people's lead in your organization? I'll keep it personal as well. This is my second stint at SC. During this second stint, I learned a few things over the years. And when I came back, somebody named Brian Phillips said, make sure you create value and create moments. So I started seeing needs, following the lead of other people and helping them and assisting them in a servanthood mindset to get things done, which brought another person into that, another person in that, and then we got a fire rolling because we chose to follow. I remember times in my life where there are student athletes who are trying to do the right thing, and they say, hey, let's go, guys, pick it up. And I've seen some kids will be like, shut the F up. And that spark is dead and there's no fire and there's no flame going that direction. But in the opposite end, I've seen somebody say, hey, let's pick it up. And then they come back and support each other and then it gets rolling. Just like AA said, hey, we come together to make sure we're all speaking one voice. Cues are the same. Because they know who the leader is and we're all following and we're all the first followers and we are the sparks that create that flame. Because instead of one spark, you got 2, 3, 4 nice sparks catching that flame and it's rolling. So when the fourth quarter hits and we cannot touch the field, that fire and passion is already built in those players so they can just move on and keep moving forward. I want to thank everybody for listening. I want to thank those who spoke before me. And here's my information. It's 1:35, minute 35. ELBD, y'all know what that means. That's my cell. Feel free anytime. AA, you have any words? You're on mute again.
Appreciate that. I'm usually really good about that. I've slipped twice today. I kind of pride myself in unmuting ahead of time, but no, it's good stuff. And like I said, it's really neat to see this stuff on paper and definitions and things like that. To see it kind of the way it kind of fabricates itself, but then to go back and look at it on paper, how it kind of really, how it all works. It's pretty neat. Is there, I guess what I was trying to say, if you had maybe an example, I would say within the teams, our teams we did in the off season this past winter, is there, can you talk a little bit about, because I know me and you went around the room and on the board and we kind of picked like who we thought, especially last summer, who we thought guys could be to be the captains or the co-captains of these teams, and could you maybe talk a little bit about like what was some of what we were hearing back from the players when we did the survey and things like that?
Well, what we did, we brought the guys together, broke them up into individual teams, split the teams up into fours. So there's one team of mine, BTW, everybody there's four main teams. And what I found during this time was the leaders were there, but there's certain little people who were needed to follow the leaders to create a bigger wave. And the people who created that wave, okay, I had Vi, let's just say Vi at one time, and he would communicate and he would talk to OG. And at the beginning of everything, OG would be a little behind, but towards the end, it was such an emphasis of competition and we were in this together to make one move towards one goal that there was a point where OG was dancing way early, coming down the stairs, ready to go. Creating buy-in within the groups. Because there's leaders, I was supposed to be a leader of one team, everybody had a leader, but during that, we chose those people who we knew that the team would follow, all right? Who on the team is gonna follow this person? Because if you can't get any followers towards that person, is that really truly a leader? So that's some of the things we did.
Yeah, I remember we did a survey with the team before it was a little quick questionnaire.
Oh yeah.
It was pretty neat because we in our mind had who we thought the leaders of our program were. So I think I was trying to remember back. It's been about a year ago now, but I think the question was like, who do you think has leadership qualities on our football team? And then question 2 was, would you follow this person? And we let them, it was behind closed doors. It was anonymous, or anonymous questionnaire. And when we got all the data, we had 100 sheets, and we kind of had in our mind, here's our guys, just by seeing the work and then seeing the interaction within the program. But again, we were pretty early. We were only about 2 months in around our players. So it was really neat to see some of the guys they looked up to and thought had leadership qualities, and we did not have them at all in our radar. And so it was also kind of neat to pull some of the guys, because there were some guys that had kind of a mixed bag. It was pretty neat to see, because some guys were put on there as a leader and they would follow, but some other players were putting this guy as like, this is a guy I think needs to pick it up in our program and buy into our program more. So you had a guy that he's got these positive remarks, and then he's got these where guys are like, no, this guy's holding us back. So those were guys that is actually really neat to see. Those were guys we would actually bring in the office and go, hey, I got something to talk to you about. Like, why is this and this at the same time? Because there's a lot of guys that are getting all this positive and they don't have any of the negative. I said, but I want to know, this is kind of incredible to me. Why are you getting both messages? And it was neat to see and let the athlete talk and let him talk about this. It was pretty neat. It was very powerful, because then they're getting this feedback. Well, shoot, I thought I was a leader. You telling me there's guys that are saying I need to pick it up? Who said that? No, it's not. It's just a list. But it's pretty neat to see some of the guys. But no, it was good. It helped create the leaders for the summer program, and then this past winter we did a little bit different. we let the players, we made the teams, then we let the players elect we said the captain and then the 2 ambassadors of it. And it was, again, pretty neat to see some guys kind of self-anoint themselves really quick and then get shot down by the group. And it was pretty neat to see. So it was very powerful.
It sounds like your approach is, well, you switched up your approach based off the athlete. You really got to know your athlete, switched up their approach, brought them in, and instead of being so autocratic, just here's how it's going to be, you let them open up and talk to see what's going on and actually learn how to approach this athlete to get him to buy in. You showed him that his team, his people that he considered to follow him, wasn't behind him. And that approach created an in-group.
Cool. Hey, well, usually I bring on my next guest, but this person is actually doing another one right now, and I don't think she's going to be off in time to jump on here really quick. But I will go ahead and let the cat out of the bag. Next Tuesday on the 1 o'clock Power Hour, we will have Miss Candace Walls from Louisiana Lafayette, who's she's been at several different schools, and she's really elevated up into a great role and things she's doing now. I've known Candace now probably close to 10 years, I'm guessing, maybe 8 to 10 years. But she's excited to come on here next Tuesday and share with you. I do not know her topic. Okay. I guess we'll have to wait and see for that one, but pretty excited about that. And last thing I'm gonna leave you with is a tip. Okay. And a little bit of a weight room tip. So talking about grip. Okay. A little bit of grip here. Always working your grip. All right. Everything you do, grip should be involved in your strength training. And here's why. Because your hands, your grip is like the tires on your car. All right. It's what touches the surface. So if your tires on your car are slippery, all right, and they don't get good traction, all right, likely you're going to have an accident, especially in wet weather or bad weather. Well, your grip is the same thing. It pretty much touches, all right, whatever you're doing, all right, it's touching the surface. So something to do, all right, is keep training your grip, because it's going to pay you back in all the lifts that you do. See you guys next week. I'm going to end this thing. Thank you, Darren. We look forward to next Tuesday, Thursday. I want everybody to stay safe. Obviously, stay home, follow, and keep doing what we need to do to flatten this thing out so we can all get back to our normal lives, hopefully in the near future, and get back to business. So fight on. Look forward to see you guys again. Thank you, Darren.
Appreciate it, DBK.